Why You Should delayed by a day, and also there wasn't a Why You Should last week because work kind of got in the way. I apologize. It happens, it shouldn't, but it just sometimes happens. I read an interesting article lately, very recently actually, about the Y generation. And there seems to be like there's the Y generation, and there's an X generation, and there's, I don't even know the current generation, what the name is that they gave it. It doesn't really matter. What they're talking about are 90s kids, and I'm a 90s kid. I was raised throughout the 90s. Well, not entirely because I was born right on 90s, but I consider myself a 90s kid, in a way, at least. And those people are currently anywhere from ages 20 to 30, I'd say, something like that. Those are considered that kind of generation, I believe. And there's a problem with this generation, or at least with some of it. There's a problem that these people that I belong to, supposedly, they're not that happy with their lives. They're kind of sad. And they were going through why that is. And it was actually a pretty interesting notion that I want to talk about today. So what they said is, our parents are actually, they were promised, what their parents told them is really, they were promised a good life, a good secure life for hard work. And they went to work 9 to 5, and they did their work and endured their hardships in order to be secure in their lives and have a good life. And they were content with that. And those people are happy. They were happy. When they had kids, which is us, they promised those kids, they wanted those kids to not have those hardships and not have to go through a job they might not have liked, for example. They wanted their kids to have anything they wanted. They wanted to promise them the world, and they did. And those kids, again, talking about me, those kids were promised the world, were promised that they could be whatever they wanted to be, that they're a special little snowflake. And what happens these days is that those kids, again, me, are at these ages where we're finally reaching the point of our lives happening, in a way. And we're discovering that that's not exactly true. You can't exactly be whoever you want to be necessarily, and you can't necessarily do whatever it is that you want to do. You might not be good at exactly what you want to do. Or, it might not be as easy, at least. I do believe, personally, that you can do pretty much anything that you want to do, given hard work. But that hard work was never that much part of the equation. We weren't really talking about hard work. We were just talking about life being amazing without any hard work. And that's kind of where the bridge lies. On top of that, there's another interesting little notion. Because of the internet and social networks, people these days, even though their lives might not be that amazing, they portray their lives as amazing and wonderful through social networks. And what this causes is, for you, your expectations are over here, but your life is actually over here. But you're seeing from this position, you're seeing everybody else's lives over there because that's how they portray themselves on social networks, for example. And that makes my expectations weren't met, and everybody else's expectations were met because everybody else's lives are amazing. And that makes you sad. And that's a pretty interesting notion that I could totally understand. It doesn't apply to me, and clearly it doesn't apply to every single person in my age group because there's a lot of people in the world with a lot of different backgrounds and come from a lot of different places. But it was an interesting notion that I wanted to talk about because I could totally see that. I could totally understand where that comes from. Personally, I never felt that because I never felt that I was a special little snowflake. Ever since I could think about these big subjects, I'd say, I always had, I want to say, the Fight Club notion of life, where you are not special. You are not a little snowflake. You are just a heaping mass of flesh, just like everybody else. And that might sound kind of sad, but that's perfectly fine. I've always felt that I am not particularly special, and not in a bad way. There's a million people that are way better than me in all kinds of various aspects, and there's also a million people that are way worse than me in all kinds of various aspects. But there is no equivalent to me. In that sense, I do agree that I am special, that I am a unique person. All of my pluses and all of my minuses come together to create something that there is probably not an exact duplicate of anywhere else. But in the sense of, if you look at broad strokes of society, I'm not special. I'm not special at all. There are lots of people who could do what I do better and worse. And that applies to every single thing that I can do. And with that said, I always had a goal. I always knew what I wanted. And there's a lot of people in my age group that has no clue what they want to do. Some of them already have a job for a while. Some of them are still studying. Some of them are nearing the end of studies in all kinds of studies for degrees, whatever they may be, but still have no clue what they want to do. And I always knew exactly what I wanted to do. I always knew that I wanted to do something in games. I didn't know exactly where it is. It took me a couple of years to figure out that I want to be a game developer, that I want to do it in terms of code, in terms of design, and I am lucky enough to be able to do that these days. But it took a while for me to get there, but I always knew that was the general area of what I wanted to do. And I was always willing to work hard for it. And I believe that through sheer luck, but also a lot of hard work, I managed to get where I am today. And I did a lot of things. I worked out, I did a game design program, and I went out to every possible meeting that I could, and I met people, and I made connections, and I worked for a while at a corporate company doing mobile games. And now, these days, at my current job, which I haven't talked about too much, and I won't go into great detail here, but I get to work with wonderful people on in a real studio in a game that I actually love, and a game that I could actually be very proud of. And other than sheer luck, it was also a lot of work, a lot of hard work, and there is still a lot of hard work to do in order to prove myself, not only to everybody I work with, but also to myself. And that is something that's really the take from here. If you are actually of this generation and you are unhappy, try to understand that everybody else's lives is just exactly like yours. It is not amazingly better in any way. There are a million people better than you. There are a million people worse than you. But if you put in the hard work, you can achieve your goals. And what everybody else's goals, that doesn't matter, because every person is different. You should set yourself with goals, and you should try your best to achieve them, and you should understand that it'll take hard work, because life isn't that easy. It's not, it's not going to be given to you in a silver spoon like you were promised as a kid. If you were, I think part of the reason is because I was never raised that way, but I understand a lot of people that were, in a way. With that, you could be whatever you want. You're a special little snowflake. It was an interesting notion that I wanted to talk about a little bit. But I believe with a little bit of a shift in mind and a little bit of hard work, you can achieve whatever it is that you want to. Sometimes it's hard to find, though, what you want to do. Yeah, that's what you should for today. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys next time.